Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the Student Cook. Today I'm going to show you my 3 favorite recipes from Gordon Ramsay's Veganuary recipes. Let's get started. So the first recipe we're going to make is a Andalusian cold soup called Gazpacho. The first thing we're going to do is cut 2 bell peppers into smaller pieces. I used red bell peppers because they will give our soup a very nice color. Try to cut your bell peppers as evenly as possible, and after we have cut our bell peppers, we're going to add them to a large bowl and move on to our tomatoes. For the tomatoes, we're going to remove the bitter stem in the middle with a very sharp knife. Make sure your knife is really sharp. In my case it wasn't, so I had to change it afterwards. After cutting your tomatoes into smaller pieces, also add them to the bowl and move on to the next step. Make sure to also add your tomato juice. For the next step, we're going to need 2 cucumbers. Make sure to peel them and afterwards also cut them into smaller pieces, just as shown in the video. We are also leaving the seeds in the cucumbers because they will also give us a nice flavor. And since most of the vitamins of a cucumber are in the seeds, we're also going to leave in the seeds and add them afterwards to the gazpacho. After you've cut your cucumber, also add the cucumber to the bowl and move on to the next step. In the next step, we're going to need some bread. Ciabatta, baguette, or also just simply white bread will do just fine. We're going to cut the bread into smaller pieces as well. If your bread has a thicker crust, that will add some flavor to our soup, but it's not that important. If you just have a normal white bread, you can use that one. Now add the bread to the mixture. Now we're going to add 1 clove of finely cut garlic to our mixture and also some freshly cut basil, which will give some great flavor to the soup. Feel free to add some parsley as well. You can also add some more if you like. It will just give more flavor to the soup. It's not really that important how much you use. Now we're going to use some olive oil, which helps to give us a more creamier texture and is also very healthy. And also pumpkin seed oil, which I found gives a very nutty and rich flavor to the soup. The next ingredient is balsamico vinegar, which gives some acidity and a nice contrast in the soup. Now season with salt and pepper. I will not put any measurements in this step because it depends on personal preference. I would say roughly 7 to 10 grams of salt. Now mix everything together with your hands and make sure to incorporate and mix everything really nicely in order for the vegetables to lose their moisture. And the secret for a great gazpacho is to let it rest and sit for a while. Don't be afraid to press it down, and now let it rest for about 1 hour to 2 hours at room temperature. The next step is going to be to mix everything together. Make sure to mix it really well. It has to be as fine as possible. The end result should be a red, glossy, smooth red carpaccio that we are now going to serve. For the presentation, we're also going to add some freshly chopped parsley and some extra virgin olive oil for a better taste. Moving on to the next recipe, we're going to make pineapple carpaccio. First, cut off the hard ends of a pineapple and peel the sides away from the pineapple. Try to cut away as much as possible from the black parts. And now the next step is going to be to cut the pineapple into very thin slices, as thin as possible. But we don't want to destroy the structure of the pineapple itself, so if you make them too thin, they might break. The key is to cut them as thin as possible and stack them on each other and continue until the whole pineapple is used up. Next up, we're going to need 1 pomegranate. Begin by removing the top with a very sharp knife and cut into the sides. We don't want to cut into the seeds themselves, so don't go too deep. We're always trying to cut into the elevated parts of the pomegranate to cut into the flesh, and don't cut into the seeds. Do that as good as possible. And now open the pomegranate. We only need about half of the pomegranate, so set one part aside and try to get out the seeds. I know it's really messy and it can get dirty, but try to do it as good as possible and remove the flesh if there's any. We're now going to place our pineapple on a plate and add our pomegranate seeds. Pomegranate seeds themselves are very nutritious and contain a lot of vitamin C, and they give a nice contrast to the sweetness of the pineapple. Now we're also going to add some freshly chopped basil. I know it might sound strange, but it fits really well. We're also going to cut 1 orange and use the juice of half an orange. Add some sugar and mix it together. And now spread everything on the pineapple. The extra sweetness of the orange will make it even more delicious. Now our last recipe is going to be a lentil salad. Now to a pot, add boiling water and heat it up to medium to low temperature. We're also going to add 1 bouillon cube with some extra flavor. After the cube has dissolved, we're going to add 300 or 400 grams of lentils. The color isn't really that important. You can use red, white or brown ones. Now going over to a cutting board, we're going to cut 2 yellow bell peppers into smaller pieces. The color of the bell peppers isn't really that important. Try to chop them into relatively fine pieces and add them to a bowl. Now we're going to use 3 zucchinis. Remove the hard part on the top and cut them into smaller pieces as well. The pieces should neither be too small nor too big, just as shown in the video. After you've cut your zucchinis into smaller pieces, also add those to the bowl as well. Don't add any seasoning yet, because the next step is going to be to cut 1 onion, and you should chop it into even pieces about the same size of the bell pepper and the zucchini. After you've done that, add it to your bowl as well, and now spread it on a baking tray as evenly as possible. Season with some salt, pepper. We're also going to add some olive oil for the extra taste and add it to a preheated oven at about 200 degrees Celsius. After about 30 minutes, our lentils should be ready. Place them into a large bowl and add some olive oil for the extra flavor. We're also going to need some sun-dried tomatoes that will complement our salad really well. After about 20 to 30 minutes in the oven, the vegetables should be ready and we can add them to our salad. Now use 1 avocado. Its creamy texture complements the salad really well. You can use the whole avocado. I just went with half of it because that's also enough. The technique that I'm showing right now is really easy and helps us to cut the avocado. When removing the flesh of the avocado afterwards, when we add it to our bowl, we're already going to have some nice cubes that don't need to be cut. Now to the seasoning, add some olive oil again, some fresh basil, which gives us that herby flavor, and some freshly chopped parsley as well. Now season with pepper and salt. The last thing we need to do is cut 1 lemon into half and use the juice of a whole lemon and add it to our salad. Mix everything together. And there you go, a very nutritious and great tasting salad. As always, thank you for watching and see you next time.